Top 5 Misconceptions about Islam. Number 5. Islam was spread by the sword. There is no record in history that shows people being forced by sword point to convert to Islam. Muslims ruled Arabia for over 1,400 years, yet today, there are over 14 million Arabs who are Coptic Christians. If the Muslims had used the sword, there would not have been a single Arab who have remained Christian. Another example is India. Muslims ruled India for over 1,000 years. If they had wanted, they had the power to convert each and every non-Muslim of India to Islam. But today, more than 80% of the population of India are non-Muslims. All these non-Muslim Indians are bearing witness today that Islam was not spread by the sword. If one considers a small number of Muslims who initially spread Islam to the west all the way from Spain and Morocco and to the east from India and China, one would realize that such a small group of people could not force others to be members of a religion against their will. It is also interesting to note that when the Mongols invaded and conquered large portions of the Islamic Empire, they themselves embraced the religion of Islam. Number 4. Muslims believe in a different God. Some non-Muslims incorrectly believe that Muslims worship a God different than Jews and Christians. This might be due to the fact that Muslims refer to God as Allah. In actuality, Muslims worship the God of Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. The word Allah is simply the Arabic word for Almighty God. The word Allah is very unique. Nothing else except God can be called Allah. The term has no plural or gender. This shows its uniqueness when compared with the word God, which can be made plural, gods or feminine, goddess. Christian Arabs also refer to God as Allah. Number 3. Muslims don't believe in Jesus. Many people are amazed to find out that according to Muslim belief, Jesus is one of the greatest messengers of God. One cannot be Muslim without believing in the virgin birth and the many miracles of Jesus. Jesus is also mentioned in many verses of the Quran and is often used as an example of good virtue and character. However, the main difference between Christianity and Islam is that Muslims do not believe that Jesus was God or the Son of God. Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet and a messenger of God. Number 2. Muslim women are oppressed. One of the most disturbing misconceptions is the negative portrayal of women in Islam. Namely, that Islam degrades and oppresses women. This misconception is due to the negative culture and traditions that people all over the world still hold on to. Unfortunately, these traditions sometimes overshadow the Islamic teaching, and people from the outside believe that the traditions and Islam are the same when in reality, they are not. For example, women in pre-Islamic Arabia had almost no rights. They were viewed as objects and were constantly humiliated. Their purpose was nothing more than to obey men and have children for him. When a female baby was born, it was considered a disgrace to the family and they were often buried alive. Islam brought positive change to Arabia. People who embraced Islam had to let go of these harmful cultural practices, and women were finally given the rights and respect that they deserved. For every male convert to Islam today, 4 females convert to the religion. Nobody will convert to a religion that oppresses them. The truth is that Islam provides women with the rights they deserve to be successful in this world and the next. Number 1. Muslims are terrorists and extremists. This is by far the biggest misconception of Islam, given unfairly by stereotyping and the public image that the media gives. Has anyone else noticed how when a specific group of people attack another group of people, it is labeled as a hate crime, but when a Muslim opens fire on anybody, it is quickly regarded as terrorism? Many political dictators and officials or extremist groups use the name of Islam as a strategy to gain followers and attention when many of their practices go against the teachings of Islam. Islam does not support terrorism under any circumstances. Terrorism goes against every principle in Islam, and if a Muslim engages in terrorism, he is not following Islam. Islam prohibits Muslims from attacking or killing any innocent person. Allah says, "Whoever kills a person unjustly, it is as though he has killed all mankind." In Quran chapter 5 verse 32.
So I've just finished watching the top 5 misconceptions about Islam, and I think my first thought was more people need to see that. I think the biggest one, and the biggest one that I've personally talked about with my friends, is why are all Islamic people just labelled as terrorists? Like, those, as it says, like, those people aren't following what is taught in Islam. Like, it's, I suppose, like, you got to think there's probably been other religions where people have gone to the extremes, but they're not labelled the same. Like, they would be said, oh, they aren't, say, for example, somebody who followed the Christian faith went and did something like that, that they would not be labelled, oh, all Christians are terrorists. Like, I think people see the minority that are at the extreme and unfairly label everyone. Like, I think that is something that needs to be talked about because it's wrong and it is very unfair. And the people that I've spoken to about this have said, you know, these people who are doing these horrible crimes in the name of Islam are not actually following the Islamic faith, yet they're still being labelled as the same as the people who do follow it and are peaceful and are kind and are caring and are loving. And I just, for me, that is something that does frustrate me, I guess, because it's just not right. I actually found it quite interesting because I wish I knew more about Islam, and I think I'm going to look into it a bit more, that actually it is the same God as in, like, the Christian and Jewish faith. I think I didn't know that. I wrongly assumed that because he's not called God that it's a different God, but it's not. And actually I thought that was very, very interesting. I think more people need to ask questions, and I think I'm in that category as well. I need to ask more questions. I need to learn more because I want to educate myself, and I think it's only fair that if I educate myself, I can encourage other people to educate themselves too. I'm very thankful that there is a girl I went to college with, that she is converted to Islam and is very public about it, and seen her on social media showing her journey, and actually she just seems so free and so happy and fulfilled, and actually it's really made me think quite a lot, actually. And I hope that the other people that have seen it have thought too, and I think I would like to ask more questions and learn more, because I am guilty of making wrong assumptions, and I'm sure a lot of people are too, but I think it's our job to recognise that we are making these assumptions and learn from it.
That was really interesting, and I knew some of these already just because I have some friends and connections that believe in Islam. I myself don't have any religions at all. I would say I'm quite agnostic, but I do also pick a lot of my beliefs from different religions just because some make sense and some doesn't. And I'm gonna go this from 1 to 5. So I already knew that people of Islam are not supposed to terrorize or have any unjustly killings of innocent people. And it is very, very unfair that whenever there's any crimes or any violence that's been sourced from a person who believes in Islam, it's considered terrorism. And that is not how it should be. It's like, if violence against violence are always called hate crimes, why is it different if it's for someone who believes in Islam? And women being oppressed, I know, is a cultural issue and not a religious issue. Pure Islam, I know from my friends who are female and have faith in Allah, do not feel oppressed by the religion at all, and they feel that the religion itself is very, very uplifting, and they can have quite a few benefits with being in the religion and being a woman of Islam. What was number 4? Oh yes, Muslims don't believe in Jesus. So I knew that they believed in some of the the Christian beliefs, and they all have, actually, it's all just kind of similar beliefs to each other, and other religions also have similar beliefs. I knew that they did believe in Jesus, but not the way Christians or Catholics did. And yeah, and they were prophets of God. Yeah. And Muslims, I knew, believed in a God that was different to Catholicism, Christianism, Buddhism, Hinduism. And I did not know for the fact that Allah, I mean, I kind of knew it, but I never really pieced together, because gods, goddesses, you can put plural in genders, but Allah, you really can't. You can never hear any derivatives, sorry, of it, which I think is very good, I think, just because it's only one Allah, and you can't have any derivatives of it. It's just the one on Almighty Allah, which I quite like. It's quite nice. And that Muslims, I knew that they weren't spread by the sword, the religion, but I did not know that they ruled Arabia and India for so long. I just knew from history and talking to my friends that Muslim and Islam was spread by the word, and you would convert if you had faith in it. And yeah, I just kind of knew that, but the facts of the years and the Mongols as well converted in Islam, I didn't know that as well, but you learn something new every day. I quite like these types of videos because it does give people the right facts and not the ones that have been spread through very religionist, I guess, conceptions. And it's good to be able to get these kinds of words out, because if I didn't have my friends who believe in Islam, I probably would still have these misconceptions to this day.
Interesting video, raises some questions. Point number one, spreading of Islam with the swords. Well, start by saying many religions spread by the swords. Christianity, absolutely, probably the worst. But also many others. Islam not spread by the swords. Well, you know, Islam may have not been directly spread by the swords, but the Islamic caliphates conquered much of the known world and then strongly encouraged people to become Muslim. So whilst no one was necessarily converted at sword point, if that is the case, people were certainly, by right of conquest, strongly pressured to become Muslim. So then we go on to our second point in the video. God different from Jews and Christians. I didn't know that. I believe, I'm not a theologist, but that is fairly believable. I'm sure that many of them stemmed from the same ideas in time. One cannot be a Muslim without believing in the virgin birth. So Jesus was a prophet, but not the Son of God. I think that's something for Christians and Muslims to argue about. I certainly don't believe either way, so it's fine by me. Then we had, so the oppression of women in Islam. I think whilst Islam may not, again, directly in its teachings repress women, that being said, the Islamic republics and kingdoms around the world probably have the worst track record of all nations for the rights of women. There is an old saying that you judge a society by the way it treats its women. Whilst this may not be a direct consequence of religion, they are doing it in the name of Islam. So that, unfortunately, is going to be the impression that people get. And, you know, people will wonder what is the connection? Why unanimously do the Islamic states all around the world, not just in the Middle East, why do they all have such a bad rep for the treatment of women if it's nothing to do with Islam? Just saying. And then finally, Muslims are terrorists. This is unfair. This, you know, many people are terrorists, and it's nothing to do with teachings of religion normally. They are radical people. So, you know, this is stereotyping, and I do think it is unfair. The Western media certainly used this as a weapon against other countries.
I found the Misconceptions about Islam video really interesting, because there was a lot of things that, you know, I recognised within things that I've seen around, or even within myself, through kind of things that I've been taught, or things that I've just kind of picked up along the way. So it was super interesting for me to think to myself and kind of have this information about, you know, what's true to the religion and what's actually a misconception. So the thing about the God being a separate God to that of the Christian God, and that not being really true, is definitely something I feel that is like an us and them thing, a way to divide and kind of separate people, when people are kind of saying, like, you know, this is not the same as our God, this is a different thing, this is a but actually the kind of almighty like power is, you know, one of those things that is constant between, and something that kind of brings all of the religions together. The treatment of women, I thought that was super interesting, and yeah, the kind of historical versus actual kind of religious practices, and how actually the religion helped with the treatment of women and helped them to get rights back, which is something that I feel like I didn't know, honestly. So that was really interesting to find out. The last thing I thought that was super interesting within this video was the way that Islam is portrayed through social media, the news, because that has such an impact on how we view people who kind of practice this religion, and it's really harmful, and actually, again, it's kind of the harmful cultural practices that are overshadowing the true kind of practices of the religion. So yeah, it was super interesting and eye-opening.
الحمد لله